Okay, let's see how this is working. Test, test. What is the delay on this bad boy? Yeah, sounds okay. Great. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's not the right one. Hmm. What do we want to put in here? Makes it a bit more interesting. Well, clearly need to actually develop some graphic design for this. I was hoping to just take something we've already done and kind of pop it in. That's what I already did here. I don't know. Let's see how this looks. Too big. That's fine. This is not the important stuff. All right. Don't think we need to actually edit this. What we need to do is go to the setups here. So the way this works is you have item components that you've put in, and actually this does not look too bad, does it? Yeah. These dice feel too big because there's nothing too wrong with that. So you can see along here at the bottom how many of various things we have. We've got counters for close, medium, and long here, which is kind of cool. So that way you kind of always know what's up. Armor types. If we zoom in here, we've got a tier 3 ship, 1, 2, 3. And so it automatically has 2 chain shot armor. Just kind of track that there. This number of special dice. This number seems too small. Or this is too small. I think we need 25 millimeters on this. Tabletopia in particular uses a 10 pixel to 1 millimeter ratio. The other thing is like the colors on this, they're just so much more yellow. Like that's the right color, but that lighting does odd things to it. Typically you'd have your crew tokens out here like this, but you know, digital space, we can put them in a bag, which is great. How do you flip L? Yeah. So have those. Because this is the test, do we have a... Yeah, so it's not here, but we can add a magnetic clipping to make sure that, for instance, the docks here, these aren't easy to read because it's so bright. Too bright. Yeah, so this is the test, kind of having everything up here, you know, close, medium, long. I think you can lock that with L, yeah. Magnetic maps will help those click into place. You know, don't have actual cannon cards yet, but plunder's the same size. Those will click into place. Part of the testing here is this looks like it has bleed on it because this is a actual this is a file that we would send to the printer, and so we need to go back and change these to no bleed. That magnetic map will help as well there. Merchants, can zoom in here, sort of see what's up. That actually is a good point. We need an opponent stat tracker. So maybe this is one of those times where we use the digital space, we build sort of this version, make it available. You know, you don't have to do this, but you know, number of crew, since they don't have crew to remove, can pop that in. Yeah, I think there's something we might be able to do kind of here in the middle, perhaps, or in front of each player, that shows it as like a little enemy control area. Yeah. Same thing. There's not as much bleed on this, or it's not as obvious because it's cut out, but if you look at sort of the top there shouldn't be really that amount of space, so we do need to cut these down. So Micah's going to be working on that. You know, the back side of it here is the card. Got a plunder, single plunder card, because again we're just testing them, but that's a mighty plunder, regular plunder, specialist, again just for testing, just one. Aspect of the dead drifter, that would be flipped over. Go with that. What we're looking at here, this green bag, it would be volley dice, which we didn't actually test any of the dice, but that's what would go in there. Long, medium, close, special dice, which we do have. Oh, they're big. I don't think they're supposed to actually be that big, but it's probably pretty cool for a digital test. Flip it for real. Cool. Action dice. Now you need, challenge dice, no longer action dice. But for that, we need the D6 and the D8. So probably put down here underneath each of the bags, just you know, kind of a visual for you know, what they are. And there's some cool ways to kind of integrate that into the background. So we got a setup here. What I also need to test is how do you do like individual players. So if I'm this player, is there a camera set up for that player over here so that they can just kind of hop in and play? But in terms of the test, we're trying to get one of each component. Currently, we've got tokens, ship tokens, plunder and mighty plunder cards, shipboard, specialists, merchants, the merchant deck, pirate lords, aspects of John Davies, port board, old port board. Doesn't have the updated graphics on it, but we can do that. And like this, for instance, doesn't have any bleed on it because it was a board, not a card that we're printing. So I think in terms of the test, we're good to go. I will, let's do this. I'm actually going to go into the actual game. And from there, exit. Yes, we want to exit. So we've already got the setup there, so we're not looking for a setup. We're actually looking to just play. So red tides. Click it and test. So I'm going to kind of go through an initial setup. Faction cards. I think we actually are already missing faction cards. So this is like a good way to actually pull up the rules. Put those alongside the test here. ignore that. Okay. Set camera view. I wonder if I can preset camera views. I need to take that as a note. Preset camera views available. Yeah, all right, this is just a tutorial, so we're ignoring that. So this one's already set up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this one here. Let's see, we're going to call ourselves the red seat. Yeah, but there is a way to do that. Then we can preset the camera view to maybe kind of like this for one camera view. All right, so shuffle the plunder deck right here. Oh, that's simplified sailing. That's the wrong one. There we go. Setup. Okay, so shuffle all cards. So come in here. I think we hit R to shuffle. 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 Okay, so that's all card decks. Then set up the port board. Place the port board. Place it to the side with the specialist deck on the side. Draw the top 6 cards. Done. Then black market. Draw 3 cannons from plunder and 1 cannon from mighty plunder. Place those there. Discard unused cards beside the port board, next to the port board, below the specialist. Who knows? Tavern, place all crew tokens in the tavern. Done. Set up merchant row. Place the merchants. That's good. Then place the market to the side here. What am I doing? Then let's go through, set up the pirate lords based on the number. We've got 4 players, it looks like, somehow all playing Firebelly. So we need another one of these. Rotate. What is this? Flip. Okay, so I suppose we will need the pirate lords set up kind of an area maybe over here or over here. Just kind of a, hey, this is components and stuff. You don't really need them to play, but so we'd put out the 6 pirate lords, set up John Davies based on the number of players, draw the aspects. So yeah, that would go over here too. So that's a good note. Let me put that note in here. So first note, create area for okay. Got it. Cool. No, that's annoying. Okay, sure. All right, set up the John Davis, set up the player ship. Each chooses a pirate house. In this case, I'm choosing Firebelly. I need my faction card, so that's the... Add faction cards. So I need to test those. So we would get the tier 1 shipboard hull point counter. Do I not have hull point counter in here? Okay, great. I have all this other stuff that isn't quite as important as that hull point counter, but I don't have the hull point counter. So add hull point counter. This is why we test. Okay. So hull point counter. Hey, Ryan. Thanks for hopping on. Um, we do have a delay of it looks like 10 seconds or something like that that I got to figure out. But welcome. Any questions? Let me know. Just kind of walking through. This is a typical type of work I am doing from day to day, and thought, why not stream it so people can watch my boring work process. Um, I'm able to kind of test the rulebook setup as well as our Tabletopia expansion stuff here. So cool. Yeah, right. Infinite hull points. I like it. It's not bad. We actually do have a starting setup, like a simplified version to kind of get going. That removes a bunch of various things. I had not considered removing hull points. Maybe that goes in the easy mode. You can never sink. I can't imagine that would be fun. Need that threat. So let's see here. Hull point counter. Don't have it. 2 fate dice. So we just click up on those for our 2 fate dice there. 1 faction token. Yeah, we don't have a faction token. Technically, I think this is taking the place of the faction token. There's a little bit of decision around, like, what do we want to do to actually represent the player in game. You know, having a vertical standee, having a flat token. You know, most of it's your ship, but you know, you do, for instance, track range here. Like, are you on close, medium, or long? This part is actually this close, medium, and long tracking is actually moving to a centralized area so that all ships can kind of see where they are at any given point in time. Which we're working on UX and UI for that. 3 crew tokens. Yeah, let's grab these, pop them in. Oh, actually, I already have the magnetic map on that. That's great. Cool. 3 crew tokens. Good. 4 old rusty cannons. I'll need to put the old rusties out in the setup area. Yeah, let's put that under here. You don't start with good cannons. You start with cannons you scraped up off the bottom of a reef. Put old rusty cannons. Oh, that's fine. Okay, great. So old rusty cannons, and then quick start faction card, which we don't have. Modify the setup as intended. In this case, we would do the additional hull points for Firebelly. That's the main thing. Then place your cannons and crew tokens white set up on the matching shipboard slots. Yeah, let's just imagine these are cannons. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's not where they come from, but I don't think there's a way to duplicate an item here. You can lock it. You should be able to duplicate items. I'll investigate that. Have you ever used Tabletopia or Board Game Arena? What's the other one? Tabletop Simulator before, Ryan? Place all remaining dice in HP, counter an easy to reach location. Here. Tokens, dice, HP counter. So hull point counter for... Yeah, we need hull point counters for players and opponent. Great. Okay, so at least the basic setup works. Dice pools, turn overview. Choose Hunt the High Seas or go to port. We're going to choose Hunt the High Seas. We're going to take this merchant. We're going to place it in front of us. We're going to do a surprise volley. Don't have any volley dice in, but that's expected. We don't need, for the test, we only need 1d6. So I'm going to take, let's see, 3 to add them to our 4. Oh, cool. Yeah. You know, I would prefer to do it in Tabletop Simulator on some levels. There's a lot more power and control in terms of scripting and things like that. You can't really do that here, but Tabletopia is free for anyone to play. So you don't need Steam, you just need a browser. And, we are thinking right now, and this really actually came from like influencers and creators that are kind of used to it. Yeah, I did Root, or started to do Root with my brother earlier this year, which was cool. And the setup is like really impressive. Yeah, I think it's more streamlined. I actually don't like how it presents the art. It's less sort of physics based. But I think that anyone, like, I can just give you a link and you could come in and you could try this out. It has 0 rules enforcement from what I understand. Whereas in Tabletop Simulator, you can help people out with like some rules enforcement. So I guess in a way it's closer to like a real tabletop experience, with the exception of where you like change the digital components, like, these infinite bags, instead of stat tracking or trying to keep it in your head, you can pop these kind of counters down, things like that, which is very cool. But yeah, we had a couple of influencers that were like, hey, we do our thing, our live stream remotely. So we often do Tabletopia, but we could also do Tabletop Simulator. The tools from a designer standpoint for Tabletopia are much easier. There's no like arcane. I don't know if you've ever created anything in Tabletop Simulator, but to put cards in, you have to make a sheet that includes the cards. Then you have to figure out how many cards. And it's a 3 or 4 step process that if you get it wrong, it really quite sucks. Whereas this is, I upload 100 images and it'll make 100 cards. So scripting versus honesty. I mean, there's some quality of life elements, I think, too, in the scripting of like, like, hey, I'm just going to do this for you because on a board it's a bit fiddly. I've always honestly kind of, I don't prefer digital versions of board games. Like, they're physical in nature. They, they have limitations and benefits. And rarely do I like a game enough that I don't want to play it in the real world with real people. I feel like Root has been the closest I've had with that lately. But even with that, I'm playing with my brother and his wife and his best friend, who are all in South Korea, and we're playing async. But for the most part, I actually like doing, in this game in particular, like, rolling 25, like, let's go up here. We already got 4. So let's go to 21. Okay, great. There are hands where you roll this many dice. And here I just do that. Cool. That's not nearly as engaging, I think, as, actually picking up 25 dice in your hands and rolling them. 25 is, I think, one more than we've actually experienced in game, really pushing it. Statistically, it's possible, but you need to like decide you're going to do it. And frankly, it wouldn't be the best idea because you would just get trashed in every other aspect. It's a little bit too much there, but yeah. So, I bet the VR part would be really cool. Man, I have a VR headset. Yeah, that could be interesting. You have to add like maybe actual dice trays if you were trying to chuck them, because they'd be all over the place. Usually the roll button is just kind of the best thing. You hit the orange. But yeah, so I think we're pretty close there. So hunt, surprise volley, combat cycle. We'll get the maneuver dice in. Which we don't really need in the testing. This is really like a physical fit test. Like, do the components go in Are they the correct sizes? We picked a sample of each one, and then Micah's got to go through our 200 plus components or whatever it is and make them. So I don't envy that process. But that's all looking good. D8s, same thing. So for the for the challenge dice, there's a D8 version. I think some of those player aids make sense. Go to port, repair your ship, buy upgrades, trade with other players, recruit crew, refresh. Yeah, all of that is currently possible. So that's it. That's the whole game. Yeah. We've actually had people who said this reminds, like, there's elements that feel good like Warhammer. And, we found kind of a Venn diagram in kind of that Warhammer thing. So you absolutely don't have the tactical real world moving, it's abstract combat, but that dice element has attracted Warhammer people at conventions, and they've explicitly said that. And we're like, I think that's pretty cool. Now, our D6s are like standard size, 16 mil, instead of, I think Warhammer typically uses like 12 mil, which is, it's chunky. When we had my 12-year-old twins play, it became apparent that accessibility is something we need to think about with that many dice. And so we'll be including a dice cup. It'll probably be kind of like a doubled component. So it's both storage for dice. Perhaps the volley dice are all in a dice cup that kind of slots in, something like that. We're trying to figure it out, but something that allows you to build those dice pools and then roll them. All right, well, that's it. If there's anything else that can answer for superfan Ryan Palmertree, who's connected in here right now, I will answer them, Ryan. Otherwise, thanks for tuning in. This test looks pretty successful. We don't have a lot of work to do. Micah just needs to go off and do a bunch of stuff to get us to a playable state. That's our MVP right now. So with the number of days that we have between now and when we want to launch, we're really prioritizing, what's critical. And, this is one of the ones that's not necessarily quite critical, but it is helpful for people understanding the game, being able to show it, test it, as well as do some live streaming. We've got some folks that are interested in live streaming the game. Thanks, man. Super great. Really, really appreciate it. Any other suggestions or anything, let me know. All right, everybody. Have a good one.